Everybody, welcome back to Black Lotus Live, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And tonight is the premiere of our Thursday show.
Yay.
And so, very happy to do this. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the possibility or not of the Hollow Earth theory. So we're going to get into that for a minute. But something else I want to announce on Thursdays, we are going to be allowing our viewers to join us in the stream. So I want to put this up there now.
And I just want to confirm for the people watching, they can they just do audio if they want to? Do they not have to do video if they want to join in, or do you want them to do video as well as audio?
Sure, video, audio, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only thing I do request is, and it should be unsaid, but no nudity, please. I was watching a live stream once, and some guy was showing his junk, and nobody wants to do that. Yeah. So please no.
This is not the place for that.
This is not the place for that.
That's the other page. No, I'm just kidding.
So let's talk about the Hollow Earth theory. So if you don't know, it's a concept that was first proposed. I guess it was first proposed that the Earth is entirely hollow and contains a substantial interior space, and so it's basically just the Earth crust that's under us, and then the rest of it is hollow. And that was suggested by Edmund Halley in the late 17th century. I'm reading my notes here.
Yeah, that's the Halley Comets guy.
No, it's not.
Right.
Yeah, it is. I just researched
it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
I just watched a documentary.
Yeah, so did I.
But it was later disproven. And the reason it was disproven is because a hollow Earth would be less than 0.4% of its current mass. The gravity on hollow Earth would be so weak, it wouldn't be enough for you to stick to the planet. You'd go floating off into space. Since any gravity in a hollow Earth would have to be coming from the crust, gravity would just cancel itself out, and its influence on you would be absolutely zero. So that's why I don't believe in the hollow Earth theory, because it just doesn't make any sense. And there have been proposals out there that there's actually an inner universe in the Earth. And what we're doing is we're actually living in the hollow Earth. And that the sun is in the Earth and all that. Preposterous, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
I think it's possible that
I believe it too.
It could have been a hollow Earth, but like you said, the gravity part is what gets to me.
Yeah.
But stranger things have happened. Who says that there can't be a hollow Earth inside that's spinning enough to actually give us gravity?
I don't know.
I think, I did a little bit of research right before, and I looked up, I was curious how thick the crust is. So the crust is about 18 miles deep. And in the ocean, it's about 3 miles deep. So I do think that there are things living underneath the crust. I do think that different animals live there, maybe intelligent species. But like I said, that's just a crust. I don't think there's anything beyond the crust. Because I don't think it's naturally formed. I don't think there's anything under the crust naturally formed. But I also don't think there's anything artificially formed, because it seems like extraterrestrials or quote unquote aliens, whether they're interdimensional or wherever they come from, it seems like they have the technology anyway, like basically like a Doctor Who TARDIS, where they could just make a small space open up to a huge space. So it seems like they don't actually need a real hollow Earth. They could just take a tree, basically. They could just hollow out a tree and make it look like a arena or something. So I don't see the need for them to actually have a hollow physical space. But I do think the crust is probably littered with artificially made or naturally made tunnels and systems that things do live in there.
Right. I certainly believe there are huge cave systems in the crust.
Sure.
But, you're talking about to the center of the Earth, it's estimated to be about 7,000 miles. So, and I think the furthest we've been able to drill into the crust is about 7 miles.
Yeah, 7.5.
Something like that. Yeah, 7.5.
Almost 8 miles, yeah.
So
we haven't even gotten past the crust. There's still a lot of the crust.
We haven't gotten anywhere near it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
we know
but
so
again,
little about our own planet.
all right.
We know more about the moon than we do our own planet.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But-
I was going to mention some other little tidbits that I thought about. When I was in college, I took wetlands ecology. Wetland is basically what it sounds like, land that's wet. But what I learned there is that anywhere on the earth that's land, if you dig, you will hit water eventually. In some places, you don't have to dig very deep. Like in the mountains, if you just dig maybe a little 6-inch hole in the ground, come back, it'll be full of water. But wherever you are, even in the desert, if you dig, eventually you will have water. That's interesting to me because a lot of people say that maybe there's paranormal activity within a well or something. Well, to me, I could kind of see how that works because if you dig a well, basically you're doing what I said. You're digging deep enough to hit water. But that water is connected to other water systems. So I could see how
Like
some
water table?
Yeah, like the water table. So I could see how some paranormal entity may be living far away. But if you dig a well, I could see how it could use the water table to materialize or travel to where you are. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, on this show, we kind of always talk bad about scientists and how they don't take the paranormal seriously. And I kind of want to give them a little bit of slack because, well, you guys just said it. You guys just said it right now. There's so little about the Earth that we don't know. Well, let me expand on that idea. There is actually
that we do. You mean that we know?
Yeah. Sorry. There's very little that we know. There's a lot that we don't know about the Earth. But let me expand on that even more. There's just a lot. There is a lot about reality that we don't know, not just the planet. And so this is why I'm giving scientists slack because there's so much stuff we don't know about the natural world. For a scientist, it's like, what am I going to study? Am I going to study something controversial? Or am I going to study something not controversial? Because there is a lot of work to be done in the non-controversial role. So I could give a scientist slack because it's not like it'd be different if we knew everything about the world and there was very little to find out and they were still avoiding the paranormal. But it's not like that. There's a lot about the non-paranormal world, a lot that we don't know. So I understand fully why a scientist would be like, why would I why would I risk my time and my career, my family's income studying something risky when there's so much non-risky things that I could study? So that's another problem with studying the paranormal is that
that goes along with a lot of other people too.
Sure. Could you expand on that? What else do you mean?
Not just scientists. There's doctors that's put their career on the line. A lot of physicists as well.
Right. Oh, and I want to say, though, that does not excuse scientists. That excuses scientists from not studying the paranormal. But it 100% does not excuse scientists from belittling the study of the paranormal. That is fully wrong. I don't think any scientist should discourage or belittle the study of these weird topics.
But I think they would have to take a side.
They could just shut up. No, they could just shut up. They could just be like, I have no comment. They could say the truth. I don't know anything about that. That's really what should be said, I think. They don't have to take a strong side against it, I don't think.
I think it's interesting that with the paranormal, specifically UFOs, coming mainstream, becoming more and more mainstream, that a lot of celebrities are coming out about their beliefs on the topic. And some of them have come out and said that they've been abducted or that they at least have seen UFOs. And and that's one place, the whole celebrity world where you can get knocked down immediately, for your views on this kind of thing. So.
Yeah. And the same thing with the political. I mean, you've got presidents that have witnessed and seen things as well. Mm-hmm. And, people that's been senators as well too.
Mhm. And
But
again, it's
they
becoming
kind of
more and more mainstream to come out about it.
right, and I think that is the reason as to why they're more comfortable with it. It's not a hush hush topic anymore. It's a more
My thought,
frequently talked about.
getting back to the hollow Earth, my thought on that too is, if the Earth was hollow, why would they be hiding it from us?
Same reason they hide everything else.
Well, I would think that greed would get them in the way if, letting people go and visit the inside of the Earth and the economy and stuff like that.
Well, look at that mountain. Was it Mount Shasta?
Mhm.
There's theories about that as well. And what about was it Talos or something like that?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to have a massive cave system with a tunnel.
A whole civilization.
Right. And I want to say that I learned that the tunnel leads to what was once Lemuria. How true that is, I don't know. I haven't looked that far into it because honestly, I disbelieve the claim.
Now, thinking back to this hollow Earth, I was thinking actually there could be a hollow Earth, but But let me explain how there could be. So I still do not think there's a hollow Earth in the literal sense. I don't think the world is physically hollow, but I could see how there are entrances leading into the crust that open up through this technology to a much bigger space. But that doesn't mean it's hollow. Like I said, UFO abductees have reported that a UFO looks very small, but when you go inside it, it's actually very big. So I think that I don't think the Earth is hollow physically, but perhaps there could be an entrance around the poles or leading under the crust, and it opens up into a big area. But it's this technology doing it. I'm not sure if I did a good job explaining that, but that could be possible.
That's just like they've talked about other planets being the same way, having an Earth or a planet within a planet.
Right.
And such as the moon being hollow as well.
You were going to say something?
No.
Oh. I thought everybody froze up. I'm like, what's going on?
So, viewers, what do you think about this? Is it a possibility? If you like, why don't you come on the show and talk to us about it?
Did you share the link on the chat room? Is that where people can find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm about to share. There you go. I just shared it again. So
yeah. So if you don't know how this works, you click on that link, and I think there's just a button that says Enter Studio, and there are other buttons. So you could, if you want to, you could disable the camera if you just want to talk. And you should have. It's good to have some kind of audio device hooked up, like a headset, like we have, or if you have your phone. Even if you have your phone, you could click on the link. You could just turn off the camera and you could just talk into your phone like normal, and you'll be in the show as well. Just for people that haven't used this technology before, that's how it works.
I think we're going to be doing this every Thursday, having the audience come join us. But again, this is I think so too. But yeah, again, this is a premiere of our Thursday show. We're still going to have our Sunday shows, but that's going to be probably reserved for guests more than likely. And on Thursdays, we're just going to sit around and kind of shoot the shit about paranormal stuff and weird stuff. So,
getting back to Hollow Earth, what about the different civilizations of ancient civilizations from before?
What do you mean?
do you mean like the Anunnaki?
The Anunnaki, and not only that, there was supposed to have been there was reports of civilizations of ETs living within the water, underwater, as well as in cave systems within the Earth.
Well, sure. I mean, I don't discount the idea that there are underground bases, and underwater bases, most definitely. And And I think that that's where these ETs, I'm not sure which species would be more prevalent, but I don't know. I'm kind of betting the reptilians are more prevalent underground than any of the other ones. But
Or
yeah,
even
most
the
definitely.
amphibian ones. The
Possibly.
amphibious ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
But-
could be some that we don't even know anything about.
Yeah, could be. But yeah, I mean, I truly believe what Wild was saying, that, there have been a lot of reports where, there are small crafts that you initially enter, and then you wake up in a much larger space. Now, whether that's an underground base or it's on a larger ship, I don't know. But
The possibility of the molecular structure being changed.
Possibly. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I can't explain that.
Right.
But the other makes more sense to me. It really does. So it's like the small ship is a foyer, and then you enter the living room.
Right. It kind of reminds me of this. I heard this idea recently that UFOs they're not interstellar ships. What they actually are is they're like a portal. So when you walk into a UFO, it could open up to somewhere else. So it works more like a portal than it does an interstellar.
That would make sense.
Yeah, that's feasible.
A couple things about the inner world, Hollow Earth. There was a really, really cheesy movie. It was a good movie. I could have stopped laughing, but it was Godzilla versus Kong. It was just released, I think, last year. And it deals heavily with the Hollow Earth. I mean, there is a Hollow Earth literally in that movie. And I thought that was interesting that they're using that idea. So if you want to see it in film. And then the other question I was going to ask is, do you guys know of any actual accounts, of verifiable, high quality accounts of people that have been to the Hollow Earth? Or
No.
Right. There's not that many of them. So I remember.
Oops. Go ahead. Sorry. No, I was just going to tell you about about Admiral Byrd. He was like one of the first ones to identify in something like that.
Can you tell us?
Right. He supposedly saw an entrance.
Okay.
And supposedly he went through and went in the north and come out the South Pole.
Okay.
Supposedly went all the way through, and he's seen all different types of beings, animals, vegetation, water systems, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if I believe his story. However, I do believe that there are underground systems like that. That's been verified, that, in these large cave systems, that, enough light gets in there, that there's vegetation in there, and there's streams and even waterfalls. So
there's a place in Vietnam that even has a great big huge one that was just found. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago.
Which is basically the same thing.
Right. It was a huge cave system that nobody had ever been into before, and they had just got in there and started discovering a lot of things that nobody had even, talked about or could identify. And you got to stop and think. We are when people are exploring, they find all kinds of different things that are never been, like animals, new species. Who's to say that they're not part of an ecosystem from someplace else like that, like underground?
Yeah. Entirely possible. I mean, it's like that line from Jurassic Park by Jeff Goldblum when he says, "Life finds a way."
Yeah.
And that's very true. That's very true. I think life, that's why nobody in their right mind should ever discredit the idea that there's alien life out there, because life will find a way, I mean, and so.
Yeah, life really doesn't let anything. Life really does not let any real estate go to waste.
Yeah.
For example, you could be like in a huge city and it's like super hot, and there's a highway and it's black asphalt and it's super hot. There's going to be something living there. There's a little dandelion growing out of the crack, or there's microscopic bacteria. So to me, I think there's definitely things living under the crust of the earth, living in the ocean, and living in the sky that we haven't discovered as well yet. Because it doesn't make any sense that the sky is just not full of life. To me, it does not make any sense. Life will take advantage of this area. It will exploit it for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, but doing hollow caves is a lot different than hollow earth.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Once again, I don't think hollow earth is real, but I do think that
I don't believe that it's completely hollow. I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that there's possibly great structures that are beneath us that we don't know anything about. You've got, stop and think about maybe some of the sinkholes. Maybe that's being created like that too. Other than the digging of the tunnel systems that crisscross all over.
Yeah. I mean, and you got to take into account the extremophiles. We found life in places where life should not be.
They found it in sulfur springs and things like that, where they would never, hot springs where they would think nothing could ever exist, as well as in the depths of the oceans where we can't even go down, but so many feet, and then it's your lungs would be crushed, and then you find animals and other things down there that are on the very bottom.
Right.
Well, and let's get back to the idea that there are alien bases underground, whether it's under the ocean or it's under just ground. Just because we've only been able to bore through 7.5 miles into the crust doesn't mean alien civilizations haven't gone further.
Right. They have the technology, the higher advanced technology to begin with.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah.
Well, with the rumors of Hollow Earth, I mean, everything is supposedly lived there, from aliens to giants to extraterrestrials.
Cyclops.
Right. So who's to say what lives in these caves that are actually there? They could be stuff down there.
And like I said, a whole civilization we've never even heard of or seen before.
Right. But again, I don't think that it is in some sort of hollow earth. I think it's just within, like I said, the crust, from where we stand to the middle of the earth is 7,000 miles. And, so yeah, I think aliens, if that's what they truly are, could have the technology to have gone a lot further into the crust, and created these mass cave systems that, are easily passed off as, what UFO abductees describe, that they're in a big base, and it's metallic in structure. And, so I truly believe that is entirely feasible. But again, the idea of anything past the crust is, to me, it's kind of preposterous, and it's because of the gravity thing, that we would lose so much mass in gravity that we wouldn't be able to stick to the planet's surface.
We'd all be floating off.
Yep.
Mr. Crowley was saying that in ancient texts and mythology, there are references to underground bases and earths and stuff like that. So, yeah, I agree with him. It's been something that's been in the text for a long time. This is not something new.
Right.
Exactly. It reminds me, I'm going to look it up right now to see if I can find a source, but I remember reading that Native Americans used to say that there were ant-like people that came out from underground.
Right.
And to me, like, if you guys just look up a microscopic picture of the head of an ant, if you look at the head of an ant, it looks exactly like a gray alien.
Yeah.
So I wonder
Yeah.
if, like, gray type
Or the
aliens,
insectoids.
yeah. So maybe they were describing the grays, maybe, and they were coming from underground. Yeah. Who knows?
If I'm not mistaken, I think I recall the ant people being associated with ancient civilization. I want to say that they took in people from Mu or Lemira.
Interesting. I'm looking it
Yeah,
up right now.
supposedly the people from Atlantis moved into the Hollow Earth. And
Or
stuff like that.
it might have been that, Ralph. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also heard somewhere along the way that these ant people saved the Native Americans from the Ice Age.
By taking them in where it was warmer to the core.
Right.
And that would make sense.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to realize how hot the inner core is, too. You know, when we did that, when we drove down like almost 8 miles and dug down, it was 356 degrees down there. So I don't think there's going to be much living in that part of the crust.
Well,
But then again,
though,
that might have been closer to a lava flow too, instead of something that's cooler like a cave, area.
well, and again, I think that there is a possibility of life even at those temperatures because, life will find a way, and when, again, you think about these extremophiles that we found, those are only the ones we found. I mean,
We got somebody waiting.
we have somebody waiting in the backstage.
Yay.
Frap Sap, what's up, man? You with us?
Fratsap, maybe you need to unmute yourself, Fratsap.
Maybe. Well, we'll keep him on anyway.
We'll keep him on. It's nice.
Give him some
It feels
time.
nice to have someone there filling up that square. Oh, here we go. Something's happening.
What did you find, Wild?
I'm still looking. Nothing really comes up. The ant word is like, it's like trying to correct me. It's like, did you mean and underground? I'm like, no, I don't mean and. I mean ants. Let's see. Okay, here's something. It says Underground Worlds Native American Mythology. Here, let me read this. It says, okay, I'm gonna give the source, but I'm not sure how good the source is, but it's kristalinks.com/Native American Underground. Okay, so this is what it says. Oops, I got rid of it. Well, I got to find it again. Sorry, guys. I hit the wrong button. Let me go to my history here. Here we go. Okay, Underground World. It says, the Apache and other Pueblo Indians, such as the Zunis and Hopis, have legends about their ancestors emerging. Oh, yeah, it was their ancestors emerging from underground world, generally after some cataclysmic events, as if a cycle in time or another reboot in the simulation theories of the human experiment, always linked to star gods or star people who created humans. It says there's a Hopi prophecy speaks of the return of the blue Kachina or star people at the end of this cycle of time. They speak of the snake people and the ant people, and it says gray aliens in parentheses. So this author does seem to think that the ant people are. And yeah, and it says right here who protected them underneath the surface. The snake people, which sounds like reptilians, ant people sounds like grays, protected them underneath the surface. And it says physical reality is a metaphor for beneath the surface. Interesting. The rise above is a return to the higher consciousness at the end of the cycle. So yeah, that's what I found. But once again, the source, I'm not sure how good the source is kristalinks.com. So I'll keep looking and see what else I find.
Interesting. Yeah. Ever since I heard the story about the ant people, I thought, oh yeah, aliens, most definitely, and why they chose the Hopi to save underground is kind of beyond me. I don't know why them in particular.
Mr. Crowley's in the. I mean, yeah, Mr. Crowley's in the chat room. So I'm inviting you, Mr. Crowley, to come on, and we could chat some more. That'd be great.
Ralph, can you read that?
It says, if you think about it, any intelligent civilization would realize that being able to live underground during catastrophic events would make you near immortal.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. But
Rob's trying to get back on it.
yeah, Rob's trying to get back with us, but he's
not even showing.
Not showing. We'll try to. No, he's still.
No. You're having technical difficulties, Rob.
I think Wild's having some technical difficulties there too.
No, it's whenever I'm reading the chat room or something, I turn off the video because people say it looks like I'm sleeping. So I'm looking down at my tablet. That's why. So
you're sleeping. I know you're sleeping.
Okay, I'm sleeping, guys.
I knew it.
I can't lie to you guys.
Just talking in your sleep. Anyway, I don't actually know how much longer we can delve into this subject. So
there's not much to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be a short show tonight, but
either you believe it or you don't.
I mean, I just wonder what type of animals that. Okay, we know that, or we've heard that there's different, like a different civilization that was supposed to have been there when Admiral Byrd went down. Like I said, as well as he spoke of foliage and animals, but I just wonder exactly what kind and how different they are from here.
Yeah,
from up top.
Who knows, really?
Supposedly they were going to start taking trips or something like that, but I don't think that ever happened again.
Yeah.
If it did, it wasn't talked about.
Now, there's also a theory that Hitler didn't actually die at the time, and they went to Antarctica where they had an underground base that they were working on. And that's often linked to a hollow earth theory. But again, I find that incredibly hard to believe. Frapsat, are you with us now?
No.
Still no audio. But well, I don't know, guys. It looks like we're not going to get Frapsat in here. But again, if anybody else wants to join us and add to the conversation, the link's in the chat room. So check it out and come join us.
Does anybody want to propose an alternate topic we could talk about? Something on their mind for the next 30 minutes? I mean, I'm fine with that.
What about the loss of, like, Atlantis, Lemur, and Mu?
Yeah, lost civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's some people that are scientists, like Eric Davis, people connected to Skinwalker Ranch, people that have worked with the government on paranormal topics, who seem to put a lot of, they seem to believe that the Atlantis story does have weight to it, that there was an advanced civilization on Earth. And I do think of all these paranormal topics, that's one of the least craziest ones, I think, that exists, is the idea
right. Edgar
that...
Casey spoke a lot of it, too, of all three of those.
Right. The thing is that, history is very poorly preserved by time. So, even like, just like the fossil record, for instance, fossil record is very poorly, sporadically preserved. So I do see how a civilization could have existed, very advanced civilization. And we have very little evidence of it, or the evidence we do have has been hidden. Hello,
right.
Mr. Crow.
Hey, sorry
Tony.
about that. I was
What's going
distracted.
on?
What's up,
That's
guys?
all right.
What's
How's it
about
going?
these otter people in Alaska?
You guys haven't heard about them?
No, I've never heard that one.
It was actually some, I know a little bit about it, not a lot, but it was actually some prospectors that had gone up to Alaska. The other guys stayed in the cabin in the little, in their little area. One guy went off prospecting and he found this large chunk of quartz. which is what they were looking for.
Right.
And whenever he found that in the area that he found it, these otter people, they were disease infected and smelly and nasty, and they chased him out of there, and he ran for his life. And eventually he made his way back to his friends. This is actually like some kind of lore up in Alaska. And whenever he got back, he explained everything to them. He gave them the chunk of quartz, and he said, I'm gone. I just want to leave. I'll tell you guys where it's at. I don't care. I don't want to ever go back there again. I don't care about the fortune. And off he went. It's kind of a little known kind of cryptid thing, but it's very, very interesting.
I've never heard of that.
Nope, I hadn't heard, but it is interesting.
Me either.
Yeah, I should probably look up some details or something for you guys, but it's actually a super, super interesting story. And it kind of pans out. It seems like it's actually a legit thing. And there's actually, from the natives up in Alaska, there's actually lore about these otter people.
That's very cool. Speaking of otter people, I think it's very interesting. So there's a guy we should have on. He's a law enforcement officer, probably retired, but he runs the humanoid journals, Albert Rosales. And so he's got a great page too. I recommend if you go to Facebook, I think it's called, just look up humanoid. But anyway, humanoids are basically non-humans that have the basic shape of a human. So that means they're upright on two legs. They have two arms. They have hands. They have feet. They have a head atop a chest. So to me, like this, I'm talking about this because you mentioned the otter people. There's so many of these humanoid cases, and I think they are real. I mean, I think what we have as a body, I mean, we know for a fact it is a very good design for manipulating the world around you. To manipulate the physical world,
The basic structure.
The basic structure is so useful to have because you could, with your hands, you could move things, and it's just a really good system. And there's this thing called a convergent evolution, it means that unrelated animals, and this doesn't have to be just on Earth, it could be in the galaxy or in other dimensions, but unrelated forms of life will look or evolve very similarly, even though they're not related at all. I'll bring up a story I said earlier, or an example is you have a dolphin and then you have a shark. That's a form of convergent evolution. What I mean is that these animals are not related. They're not closely related at all. One of them is a fish who has gills, and he doesn't have any bones. He's got cartilage. That's a shark. And another one's a dolphin, which is a mammal. It has bones. It breathes air. It has lungs. But they look almost exactly the same. So that's convergent evolution. So I think this humanoid body structure we have, like the otter people of Alaska, I do think it's legitimate that all these aliens have it. I think it's an example of convergent evolution.
Well, I'm going to probably slaughter this, but I'm just going to show you what I put up. They're called the Kshtaka, which I forgot about. I'm probably going to just slaughter half these names.
No problem.
But they're called the land ottermen. They're mythical shape-shifting creatures found in the folklore of the Tlingit people of the Pacific Northwest coast of North America. They're similar to the Watsa of the Samayan people, Natina of the Dena'ina Native Americans of South Central Alaska. So it's actually part of their folklore in northwestern America and southern Alaska. So it's pretty interesting, the whole story. So, but I just like it because it's something that's little heard of, and like you don't hear it spoken about very much. So I just find it, kind of refreshing. If you want to put it that way.
But just like we've talked about before with folklore, myths, and things like that, they all have a base of truth.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned shapeshifting. You know any more about that shapeshifting quality that these otter people have?
I don't think they do have a shapeshifting.
I think I misheard you. I thought you said shapeshifting in your description.
No. I don't believe that they do have a shapeshifting quality. I think that they're just like kind of this. If I were to analytically, break it apart, I think they're just maybe people that lived on a river that, over eons of, evolution kind of became this hybrid river / land type humanoid. Yeah. If that makes sense. Kind of like dolphins. They went from the ocean to the land and back to the ocean, but yet they still breathe oxygen.
Exactly. Interesting.
So kind of like that kind of hybrid, but still maintaining their legs and living on land.
Okay.
I want to mention this thing this concept that might help us understand paranormal entities, all kinds, reptilians, greys, otter people, Sasquatch, really anything that's alive that has a spark of life. I think this concept will help us understand them better. Okay. So when I was in college, I think I pretty much figured out what the meaning of life is. The meaning of life. It sounds like a really big topic. And my answer, unfortunately, it's not that profound, but I do think it's correct. I do think I discovered the meaning of life. So I think once I tell you what the meaning of life is, I think that's what motivates everything that's alive, including cryptids, including aliens. So there's this is what the meaning of life is. So basically, there's this term called fitness. Now, it doesn't mean being healthy. There's a different definition in fitness, okay? What fitness means, it means how many offspring do you have that are also healthy and can also have offspring. So fitness is a number. So your number can be 10, it could be 100, it could be a million if you're a bacteria or something. But once again, it doesn't mean how many kids you have. It's not that simple. Those kids have to be able to have kids. That means they're not sterile, okay? So in my studying of biology, I believe that everything that's alive is trying to increase its fitness, everything. So basically everything is trying to have healthy children that could also produce children. So I think that greys are probably, all aliens. I say greys a lot because because Damien's had experience with greys, but I know there's a lot of different aliens. But I think aliens, a lot of their actions are motivated by this fitness thing. I think they're trying to increase the number of healthy offspring, which goes into the hybridization. And these otter people, every action they do, it's because they want to increase their fitness. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily trying to get a mate. If you're trying to get more land or more food, that also helps your fitness, because if you have more food and more land, you're able to have more healthy children. You're able to support more healthy children.
Well, part of the myth with the otter people is they lure you into the woods and they either devour you or they turn you into another Kshtaka. So, there
you go.
And they're terrified of dogs. And that's kind of like why the Alaskans have, these sled dogs other than pulling sleds, what have you. So I don't know. That's just some of the little stuff that I read.
Right.
It's interesting.
Tony, going back to the whole hollow earth thing, what are your thoughts on that?
Like I said earlier, I mean, we've created cities under mountains. I've been there. I worked for the Air Force. I've been to NORAD. I've seen it. It's amazing. It's a freaking small town, inside of a mountain. So if you had some superior intelligence, you've had, say you had superior, like the Atlanteans or what have you, or the Aztecs, the Mayans, anybody that had superior intelligence, why couldn't you have created a larger ecosystem, a larger, system underground to where you could live that was more advanced than what we have now? They preceded us by, with their science and their knowledge and everything else. So given that, why couldn't they have created another ecosystem underground? And if you create that ecosystem underground, say 1,000 years ago, okay, what would be the evolution of the animals down there?
Right.
They would not follow the evolution of the animals landside or seaside. They would follow their own evolutionary track. Right. So it's just it sounds senseless and baseless, but it's just kind of like, what if?
I want to expand on this idea of different animals in a cave system evolving differently. So here's another concept in biology that we may not think about, but let me explain it to you. So imagine you're a living animal. Imagine you have a certain amount of energy. Okay, so this energy is it's not infinite. You only have so much, and you have to divide that energy in different categories. Okay, now this is what I mean by dividing energy. Okay, if you have let's say you have eyes. Okay, eyes actually take up a lot of energy. So if you decide I'm an animal, I'm going to have eyes, then that takes up part of that energy. So you can't use that anymore. So what happens in a cave system is animals are always trying to make the most of that energy. So what happens in a cave system is animals lose their eyes because they don't need their eyes. Another thing that takes up energy is having skin pigment. So if you have, if you're like a lobster and you have a red pigment, the fact that you have a red pigment, that takes up energy as well. So when you have cave, like just a cave crawfish that was discovered, this cave crawfish is a new species. It lacks skin pigmentation, so it has no color because there's no need for color. And it has no eyes because there's no need for eyes. Why does that happen? It's because they have a finite amount of evolutionary adaptive energy, and they don't want to use it up on useless things. So that's just another thing to think about as well, of adaptations and how animals look as well.
And that was what I was saying, is if you're given these limited identifiers in your environment, like say you did go down below ground and you created this ecosystem, however technologically you did it, those animals they got a finite source of options to choose from. So they might not look anything like, or they may look like something from a million years ago that didn't have, the benefits and the earth that we have now. So maybe they would be more primitive Earth. So
that's very true. I'm really fascinated by there's certain animals that just kind of got it right evolutionarily and they haven't changed, like sharks, horseshoe crabs, crocodilians, certain fish. There's a fish called a bowfin, and there's an alligator gar. Alligator gar, coincidentally, is probably my top 3 favorite animals. But yeah, these animals are so interesting because they basically got it right. They're unchanged. If you look at their fossils from 300 million years ago, they're not changed. They're exactly the same. They got it right.
Yeah, I've caught alligator gars fishing here in Pennsylvania. So.
Oh, really? How big were the ones you caught?
Probably about 4 foot.
The alligator gars are kind of like cryptids because they could get very big. They could actually get like 10 feet long, and they could get wide, like a really wide, like a tree trunk. The problem is that it takes a long time. They're very slow growers. So perhaps they used to be bigger in the past, and nowadays because of overfishing or because of limited environment or degradation of their environment, they don't get as big. But I think they have the potential to get huge. Alligator gar has this really long snout that looks just like an alligator. They have 2 rows of teeth on the top of their mouth. They actually breathe air instead of they get their oxygen from the air, not from the water. So you'll see them come up to the surface and they'll take a big gulp of air. And that's very evolutionary advantage, because if they're living in an area and the water like dries up or it's really low quality water, it's not going to kill them because they don't get their oxygen from the water. They get their oxygen from the air. So anyway, they're really cool animals. They're kind of like cryptids to me.
That's kind of like we've actually caught there's actually been people that have caught paddlefish here in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, paddlefish. That's another one. Yeah.
Which is just amazing. If you look at that fish, it's just, that's kind of like the alligator gar in a way.
Oh, it is, yeah.
In a visionary, thing. But yeah, it's just amazing, the evolution of these fish.
The snakehead.
I saw an alligator gar once. I saw an alligator gar once. It was in when I was living in New Orleans, and it was at Lake Pontchartrain, and it scared the hell out of me because I was like knee deep in the water, and suddenly I saw this thing move. And I was like, what the hell was that? And it did exactly what you said, Wild. It came up for a breath of air. And I thought, oh my God, that's a scary looking thing, So
that's
immediately got out of the water.
That's kind of funny because we lived in the Keys for like 4 years. And all my Cuban neighbors and stuff, we would go out snorkeling. And the barracuda, they are super, they are so inquisitive of you. But I mean, those teeth, and how menacing they look, they would literally follow you around, and you could go and lift up a rock and then put it back down and then swim off. And they would go back and look at that rock and try to figure out why you played with it. But it's kind of like the same thing because you see it. It's so terrifying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now, I will get to the defense of alligator gar. I think that I don't know if I've looked into it. I don't think there's any reports of them attacking people. I think they're piscivores, so they only eat fish. That's what they're designed to do, is eat fish. And from what I've observed, they have very sweet personalities, and they're very smart and very inquisitive. So I don't actually think you have to be scared of them. But
I'm not going to keep one as a pet.
They do look terrifying. That's part of their charm.
Well, look at the fish that look like they have human teeth.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Oh, yeah.
Those are
weird.
interesting too.
My friend has pictures catching those. So
Oh,
he lives down in Virginia. He's always fishing. So
Aren't they famous for biting testicles? I've heard.
Those are buffalo heads, aren't they? No, I think that's what those are called. The fish with the human teeth. I think they're called buffalo heads.
Okay.
Or no, sheep heads.
I forget,
Sheep
but I
heads.
mean,
That's
they
the-
seriously look like them.
No, they're called sheep heads. That's what they are. Now that I remember. So
Oh, they
I
don't
have-
have. We've got sheephead up here in Lake Erie. They don't have the human teeth like the ones I'm talking about.
yeah, it's probably an ocean thing, maybe.
It
I
is.
want to
We
mention
live in a
this.
very
Or,
weird
not an
world.
ocean, but I think it's a river. It's a river one.
As far as
It begins
cryptids,
with a P. If I'm not.
we're talking about cryptids and we're talking about humanoids and water animals. I just want to say that I'm going to post this link in the chat room. But if you want to look up this clip on YouTube, it's called "Tony Woods Spotted a Merman in the Seychelles." So basically, this is a report. This is a report of a mermaid, basically in a lagoon, and it didn't happen that long ago. So it was a nighttime. This mermaid came out of the water, and it scared this guy. And I think it's legitimate. He was in a lagoon in these islands. The islands spelled Seychelles. I think it's in France. I'll post a link in the chat room if you want to see the whole account. But I was like, wow, mermaids are real. Who would have known? Who would have known?
But then again, just like we talked about earlier, we don't know everything about our Earth. We don't know about all the plants, the animals, everything. We don't know about all of them. There's new species of things being found all the time. You've had like the pirates, and just like Columbus, they've all seen things that they thought was mermaids as well.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, the
Sirens.
simple fact is, if you were an advanced civilization and you moved under the ocean to survive, this is kind of tie in back to what I said. If you moved under the ocean or underground to survive these cataclysmic events, okay, now you're looking up at what we're doing. We're destroying the environment. We're blowing each other up. We're constantly at war. We have nothing but disease, famine, no water, everything else. Do you want to come up here and introduce yourself?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
I mean, seriously.
But they're not going to be as beautiful as what they're being depicted either.
Right.
They're
Of
the
course.
mermaids and mermen. They're definitely not going to be looking like that.
Beautiful to us. Beautiful to us. It's very subjective, right?
They're going to look like Gollum with a fishtail. I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
But
Because they're going to look like they're basically environment too.
Right.
so I think we're going to get out of here for the night. Goof On is coming on in about 6 minutes or so, and I don't want to overlap with him. But hey, Tony, thanks for coming on. Appreciate
hey,
it.
I love when you guys have me. I mean, it seems to be a great conversation. We kind of seem to have like a pretty progressive conversation, which is enjoyable. So
Well, yeah, and
Nice
you're
to meet
very
you, Tony.
intelligent about these things.
I pretend to be. You guys
You're very modest. You're very modest,
see.
Mr. Crowley. But
I see unidentified S4 finally made it into the room
Just as we're leaving.
just as we're about to leave. So, but anyway, folks, thanks a lot for watching. Again, we're doing this every Sunday and Thursday now, and Sunday is pretty much reserved for guests, pre-scheduled guests, and then Thursdays we're going to open up the live stream to everybody in the chat room, and you can join us there. But in any case, until Sunday, keep thinking and question everything.
guys have a fantastic New Year. Thank you.
Happy New Year.